Yes, so we are doing Local Wonders 101, your RecSports Adventure Toolkit, and I'll go ahead and dive in. You already got some of our introductions, but my name is Bridget Smith. I work as the Assistant Director for RecSports Outdoor Adventures, and I've been at my role at UF since around 2019. And then prior to that, I've been taking people outside in some capacity for close to 20 years. And then most recently, within since 2022, I also now have a 2-year-old daughter, which changes the ball game entirely for what getting outdoors means for me and my family. And the thing that brought me outdoors for the first time was actually finding things that I could eat or turn into pies like blueberries. And then my lovely co-presenter.
Hello, my name is Amber Larkin. I'm the Associate Director for Outdoor Recreation. So I actually started here as a trip leader and in undergrad and had a lot of summer camp experience and spent a lot of time as a kid getting excited about getting a container of crickets from a tackle shop to have them like chirp in the tent so that my dad could then later use them to go fishing. And that's turned into leading international adventures. And then now it's turned into being with my almost 3-year-old daughter Vera, and then my son who's around 8 months old Remy, and trying to figure out how to make some backyard camping adventures happen. So we're in different chapters of life now, and hopefully have some tips that can help it feel more feasible and exciting to you.
Exactly. So our hope is that by the end of this presentation, you all will be able to identify the why for why you want to get outdoors, the what you want to do once you get there, and then specifically have some more knowledge about local area gems. So Florida-specific activities, places, and seasons. So covering the where and when of getting outside. And then we also hope to, break down some of the barriers that you might have to getting outside. So knowing that the outdoors is for everybody, regardless of who you are, whether you identify as outdoorsy or not. And then also to help tackle the how to get outside. So some of the logistics or considerations that you might have to make your adventure a success.
Okay, so step one is finding your why. So if you could put in a chat, just think of a time when you felt alive or content outdoors, when you've had that like deep breath moment, or that like feeling of like yes, or just wonder, like whatever that may be. If you could just drop some of that in the chat of a time that you've felt that before. Ooh, so nice. Yes. Sunrises and sunsets, mountains, animals, love that. Okay, great. These are some great examples. Ooh, hiking in the mountains, walking along the beach, wanting to be on the water, flowers. Great. These are great examples. Okay, so this is might be like one of the reasons why you want to go outside. And so one of kind of like some of the underlying whys, we'll see in this next slide. Some of those might be to like from looking at the flowers or being near the water, you may have felt some de-stressing, connection to others, a level of physical or mental challenge, maybe this kind of like self-reflection, a meditative observation where it's like getting some perspective on like, wow, these mountains are so big, this ocean is so big. Like giving me a little bit of perspective on my life. That's like one of the things that I love so much about the outdoors. And one of the things is that, studies show that people find these things outdoors. So even if it's just on a day trip, we can all get a sense of some of these things throughout. So maybe it's just like you find a sense of belonging by being like, hey, you brought an extra cheese stick for me. Thank you. Like on this 3-mile hike, that means a lot. So little things like that go a long way. And these are outcomes that we find in why people go outdoors and the benefits of going outdoors, even if it's just for a small adventure. But oftentimes, figuring out your why can be a hurdle if you don't identify as an outdoorsy person. So, being outdoors doesn't need to be this epic backpacking trip like summiting Mount Everest, no bathroom, gotta dig a hole to go to the bathroom. Like, it doesn't always have to mean that. So, sometimes asking a different question can help you identify your why.
And that different question might be the what you want to do out there. So if you have a different answer for this question, I'd like to hear it. Is like, what do you want to see, do, feel, smell, taste, or experience? Or if you already answered that question, what is something that you already like to do? What is a hobby that you have that you may not associate with the outdoors? Getting fresh air is always a plus. Yes, finding activities to do with my 8-year-old grandson who is on the spectrum. That's awesome. It's a great answer. Awesome. So I like your answer a lot, Mabel, because I think that a lot of times we may, like you may as an individual know your why. You know, you may have had these amazing moments of connection with yourself or with others in the outdoors. But then the next thing is like trying to, you know, spread that why to your family or your friends. And for me, at least, I don't get very far if I'm trying to convince my 2-year-old to love the outdoors, if I'm telling her that she's going to connect to a sense of awe. Instead, I need to find specific activities that will motivate her. And a lot of times, those are going to be not those like big hitting outdoor recreation activities like mountain biking or you know, backpacking or those things that we think of when we think of outdoorsy people. Those are going to be smaller, more like discrete goal-oriented activities. So I'm about to show you some, but one of the things that I want to like break down is just that if you like to collect, you know, magic cards or stamps or puzzles, like, or if you are the type of person who just likes to tinker in the at home, those are activities that you can do outside. So here's some examples of ways that your existing hobbies could be transferable, or your kids' hobbies or your family's hobbies could be transferable. Um, so fishing, we included a photo from the IFAS Extension Office. They have fishing days that they offer. Snacks. I mentioned at the top of this that finding things to eat in the outdoors is a huge motivator for me personally. Art, it's a lot of fun to sometimes if you are celebrating somebody's birthday to create little crafts or things that you can pass on to someone else. This is a picture down here of seining, which is like an activity for finding little critters in different rivers, and that will give you an idea of like the different ecosystems and the health of the ecosystem. Foraging related closely to snacks. Couldn't resist putting that on there because I love snacks. And then if you like to like bond with others or have a feeling of service, doing invasive species removal is another example of like an activity that can be fulfilling. So these are some non-traditional outdoor activities that people might not think of, but they can be motivators, especially for little kids or for families, like making things a quest as opposed to just doing it for the character building aspect of it. So finding your what, and there's so many more we could include on here, from stargazing to geocaching, to learning to build a fire, you know, to making small boats. Any of those could be different activities you could do outdoors. However, in order to do those what's successfully, you're also going to need to know your when. Um, and timing is everything. So sometimes the when can help inform the what, since there's specific seasons for everything. The Florida seasons aren't like the ones that, you know, you might see up in the Northeast with the Hallmark cards and movies showing our winter falls and all of that. In Florida, we've got our dry season and our wet season. And then we also have a lot of different animals and plants and critters that also come out or are more abundant in different seasons. So one of the tips that I would give you all is to become acquainted with the Florida seasons. And a quick list of those is in winter, we have our dry season, but you can also see a lot of manatees in the springs that are part of our local area. You can also go out and find a lot of citrus. As we move into spring can be a great time for finding loquats in the parks, even just in like the Gainesville area. In the summer, that's a great time for blueberries. These are actually wild blueberries that you can find in loblolly or in not loblolly, in longleaf pine preserve. So these are just like little baby blueberries. And then you also might want to learn about when is the best time to see sea turtles or butterfly migrations or bird migrations. When is the best time to find bioluminescence in the water? And then summer, and actually right now, is a great time for scalloping. So getting to know some of the seasons that make Florida unique will also help give you the what's, but it's really important and it will influence your timing if you are going out in the summer, especially. Um, so some of the things that you want to consider as far as time of day is going to be that in Florida, heat is a huge consideration. Not as much in Gainesville in the winter time, but spring, summer, and fall, you're all going to be needing to think about what the temperatures are going to be, how hot it's going to be, how much water, how much sun protection, whether you should be going out at midday at all. You're also going to want to consider the fact that in the summertime in Florida, right around 2 p.m. is usually when that first thunderstorm rolls in, and you probably don't want to be on the water. Um, we also have a thing called bug hour in Florida, which is that at sunrise and sunset, you want to have extra layers because of the bugs that are out. And then with beaches in Florida, but to a lesser extent, some of the springs and other like waterways, you also want to consider how many crowds there are going to be at different times of day or during different seasons. So timing is everything. Know your Florida seasons and then decide when you want to go out. In general, getting an early start is going to help you avoid some of the crowds, some of the heat, and some of the Florida weather. And in general, you want to avoid being out in the middle of the day in summer in Florida, even on the water, because sometimes there can be lightning storms. So look out for lightning.
Okay, so you have steps 1 and 2 complete. Now we're going to talk more about where. So we're talking about local wonders. We're not talking about mountains. We're not talking about beaches. We're going to give you some of the little known, the lesser known gems in or around Gainesville. It's not a comprehensive list, but they are great areas to explore that are all within around an hour driving range. And so if you have an idea of your why, and you know your when, you can also enjoy these different areas at different times of year. They're like gifts that keep on giving. So let you jump right in. This one is ultra locals. These two places are right in the middle of Gainesville. So there's Alfred A. Ring Park and Loblolly Woods Nature Park. These are both, they have the Hogtown Creek will run through them, and these are great spots for shark toothing. So all you need to do for shark toothing is just like a little strainer, like you see here at the bottom, or just a colander from your kitchen, and you can just like scoop up some dirt, mush around in there, and like pick out what you find. And then you want to make sure it is like a catch and release, though. You want to just like leave the shark teeth there. It's for the journey of finding. But especially at Loblolly Woods, it's right near Massey Park or the West Side Pool. There are hidden citrus trees. You can bring your dog. So that's a great little local adventure there too. Okay, so then this is the Prairie Creek Preserve and the Lachua Trail. So both of these are accessible from the Hawthorne Trail. They both have boardwalks. And the Lachua Trail is iconic. So if you haven't been there, you absolutely should. And Prairie Creek is lesser known. So Prairie Creek has about an almost 5 mile loop, and it has this picture is of its cypress lined boardwalks. So those are lovely. They're not very wide, so they're not like stroller accessible, but they're fun to walk on and balance on. And there you end at a little creekside picnic spot before looping back. And then the Lachua Trail is 3 mile out and back, and there it's a boardwalk stroll. That one is like stroller and ADA accessible. You're bound to see alligators and birds, and it's just off the Hawthorne Trail. There's ample parking, and they're great. Okay, so now we're going into Payne's Prairie. So I think that a lot of people will mainly think of Payne's Prairie as I have not seen alligators at the Prairie Creek Preserve. at least like on those little cypress lined boardwalks, no. There's like a little creek that you get to, and I haven't seen gators there, no. But little turtle heads poking up. So then there's the Paynes Prairie, and I think that people often think of Paynes Prairie as just like that strip on 441 where there's like that little like boardwalk overlook area, but there is so much more to explore. So one area is Bowlin Bluff. That's an almost 3 mile loop. It starts out as a shaded trail and then shoots out into a sunny prairie. And behind these wild horses, there's like you can see the little observation tower there. It's like a 2-story observation platform, and that's a great little hike. And then there's Paynes Prairie Preserve State Park, which is there's just so much land there. So there's over 30 miles of trails, and there's a campground where you can like have an RV or a camper there, or just like have like a tent set up, a little local camping spot. And there's a visitor center that has kind of like a mini museum and a cool video where you can learn about the prairie. And then you can hike out to this 3-story observation tower that's pictured here to bring your binoculars and look out for wild bison or wild horses, birds like sandhill crane migrations are great to see there. So this is just a beautiful local wonder. And the trail from the parking lot to the 3-story observation tower is stroller and wheelchair accessible. Okay, so Sweetwater Wetlands Park and Bar Hammock Preserve are both great places to go, especially in the cooler months, because neither of them have a lot of shade. So Sweetwater Wetlands Park, it's a 3.5 mile loop, but there are a couple of different options, so you could make it shorter, and like kind of do mini loops within there. This is your birding spot. They have guided ranger hikes. It's stroller friendly. There is no shade though. Bring your binoculars and you'll have a great time. You'll probably see some alligators and lots of cool birds. And then Bar Hammock Preserve is like in the Micanopy side of town, so it's like just outside of Gainesville. There are 2 entrances. One of them is a little more shaded than the other, but there's a 6.8 mile levee loop, and this one you can hike or you can bike.
Great. And speaking of biking, people don't normally associate Florida with mountain biking, but there are opportunities to go mountain biking. So we included these two if you are looking for more of that physical challenge, or you may have like older kids or family members who are more motivated by that. So Santos is in Ocala National Park. It's about an hour and 10 minutes from the UF campus in Gainesville. And at the trailhead, you can actually get completely suited up. You can get a mountain bike, you can get a helmet. So you can get everything that you need to ride on the trails there. And they're actually like pretty like interesting and twisty. They have a variety of like beginner, intermediate, and advanced trails at Santos. So we do run adventure trips there through Outdoor Adventures, but you can go on your own and just stay on the very well-blazed trails, stay on the green trails, and you should have a beginner-friendly experience. So if you're looking for something really difficult, and you or your friends or family are very confident, you can also go to a place called the Vortex in Santos, which is also built up with like wooden bridges and different elements, and you can do jumps or just like watch people get their mountain biking on. And then like once you feel comfortable with the gear, and maybe are thinking about like getting your own mountain bike, San Flasco Hammock Preserve, the one below it, that offers 20 miles of single track trails, and it's another popular destination for mountain biking. Surprisingly, it's not all flat. There are like a good amount of like little like built up jumps and things like that. It's also one of Florida's largest remaining tracts of hardwood forest, and I particularly like some of the trail names there, including Bramble Ramble and Tugnut. And then if you're not into mountain biking, you could of course go to Ocala National Forest, which holds Santos in it, or you could explore the non-mountain biking portion of San Flasco Hammock Preserve as well. And then moving away from mountain biking and talking about getting low in Florida, we wanted to give a shout out to like 2 kind of like unique local areas. One of them is the Devil's Mill Hopper, which I hope you all have visited. It's a pretty, family-friendly short hike. Parking is very accessible, and you can see this long staircase that leads down into the Devil's Millhopper, which is a giant sinkhole. And it's really because of the elevation change and because of the amount of like water and humidity that's present at lower elevations there. It's also like a little miniature rainforest that has some trees and plants that you might see in like the Appalachian Mountains. So it's a unique kind of like ecosystem in Florida. Some people go to train, so you can see people just like running up and down the staircase. They also have monthly yoga, and the times are listed on the slide. And then below it is Cedar Lake Woods and Gardens, and that is close to Williston, just outside of Archer, Florida. And that is also a place where you can get low, except this is the remains of an old limestone quarry. And they transform that into a botanical oasis. They have some like giant tortoises and pens. They have some native plant festivals, and they have a cacti garden. So, two different like areas that can show some of the changes that you can see when you get very minute changes in elevation. So you may not have mountains, but the ecosystems in Florida change greatly just depending on how high you're at elevation wise. And then if you're looking for a little bit of history, we have spotlighted Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings State Park, which has a good variety of different activities. There is a boat ramp to do paddles, there is a playground, a pavilion, and you could also do a homestead tour. And then Morningside Nature Center has 6 miles of trails, lots of events and programs, wildflower walks, a living history farm, with the times that they run that there. And then you can see that sometimes they'll have like music gatherings and like old-timey demonstrations of whether it's music or, crafts. They also will feature that at Morningside Nature Center. So another recommended spot. And it would be impossible to list all of the springs in one slide. But there are so many springs in the Gainesville area because of the limestone bedrock on which our little city sits. So some of them are Juniper Run, Itchitucknee, Rum Island, Blue, Poe, Ginny, Rainbow, Silver, so many more. It's really fun to try to go to each of the spring. They all have very different flavors. Some of them feel pretty remote, and some of them feel very crowded. Jenny Springs is noted for being like a festival spot. And Juniper Run is a little bit like off the beaten path, but is a very fun, like more advanced type of paddle. So something for everybody. Yes, and then getting on to how then. So once you've decided you're where you're going to go, which activity you want to do there, who you're going to bring with you, that's when you can start to get into the tricky business of planning out your trip.
Yes. So we didn't start with this step because this is often where people get stuck. They get like I've definitely had it where I've been overwhelmed and I'm like, let's just leave it for another day and we'll figure this out next month or next summer. And so we're hoping that we can just talk through some of the basics to make it a little bit more manageable and feasible to get out there. So a couple of the key considerations will be figuring out weather. So there's weather as in like the season, but also I'm talking more about specifically like the day of weather. And the recommendation there is that the closer the better if you can wait to make the call on whether to go. I've had it so many times where it's like, nope, I'm not gonna go to the springs because it looks like it's gonna rain 60%. And then the morning of it's like actually 20%. And I'm like, yes, I'm so glad that I already had all the things packed and that we're ready to go. This is gonna be great. So often the weather's just so fleeting in Florida that just if you can wait on making the weather call, wait on it. And then things to consider depending on where you're going or what you're doing would be wind, rain, and then sunset time. So then also, let's see. So some transportation and logistics things are just where you want to start and end your journey and whether you'll need a shuttle to do that. So an example like for a springs trip is like, okay, do you want to just keep it simple and do a head springs where it's a swimming hole where it's like we're going to drive there, we're going to walk a short distance and just like set up shop and have a good time in the water? Or is it, no, we want to tube or we want to actually get a kayak and paddle it from the north entrance of Itchitucknee to the south entrance? So that would be where you're figuring out if you need a shuttle. So that can be a logistics piece where it's like, all right, you need to bring 2 cars. How are we going to do that? And that's where it's like, maybe you want to call in for some help on that one. So we'll talk a little bit more on how we could help with that. But if you want to do something on your own, that can be where you can you can call ahead and ask if they have shuttle services. A lot of parks offer those, or they know of outfitters that are nearby where you can rent a boat and have the shuttle service done for you if you're wanting to go on more of like an epic journey. Then knowing what the parking situation is, if there are any fees, sometimes they might be cash only, or you pay on the oh, great question. Can you recommend bug spray that actually works? Okay, yes, we'll get to that a little bit later. But yes, so then you can, some of them you might need to pay on your phone or you might need to have cash. So that's a good thing of calling ahead and figuring that out. And then knowing what your restroom situation is, the emergency plan on just, do you, like, what would be your steps if someone were to get hurt? And then knowing the accessibility. Are you trying to bring a stroller or a wheelchair? Are you trying to have your, 8-month-old nap on the go? Like, can you bring the stroller? What will that look like? And then, based on those things, you're going to gear up. You're going to have your first aid kit. And in that, you want to make sure that you have any like medications that you might need. If you might need like your inhaler or an EpiPen, something where it's like, oh, we probably like, we might not need it. It's like that's an area with the first aid kit that it's like, just bring a couple of things that you may need that would be really helpful. And then you definitely want water, snacks, lunch. If you need your rain gear, that's a good thing to bring. Hand sanitizer for sure. Sun protection, like your hat, sunscreen, sunglasses, bug spray, and then you might need toilet paper or wet wipes based on the bathroom situation. Okay, so with this, just knowing, I just like this happens every time. I'm like, oh my gosh, there is just so much stuff always. It is impressive. This is my daughter in a bag. She's one of the things that I always bring with me. But I think that it's helpful to just have preparing your things and have the stuff as a part of your journey. I can often feel overwhelmed when it's like, oh, there's the journey, I planned the trip, and then there's all this stuff I need to pack. But if I think of it as just a part of the experience and make it part of the process, not a barrier, it can be helpful in making it less overwhelming. And then also be prepared for other people's stuff. So I try to like always, bring that extra cheese stick, or if it looks like it might rain, like maybe bringing an extra rain jacket if I have one, or an extra umbrella or something like that. A little bit extra sunscreen to share can be really helpful.
Just a sec. Hmm. I'm
Huh.
encountering technical difficulties. Just one moment. Okay, interesting. All right. So yes, so Amber highlighted all the things that you want to bring. And then besides making your gear list and checking it twice, you also want to get comfortable with contacting the people that own the area that you're recreating to ask them area-specific questions. So this gentleman in orange on the top left, he represents a park ranger or another helpful person who might oversee a park or local attraction. And what you want to do is you either want to look at their website, make sure that it's up to date. Some people seem to only update Facebook now. I'm not sure why. Or what I recommend is calling directly, if um, especially if you're going for more than the day and you're considering like a longer adventure. So you're driving up to Pisgah National Forest to go camping or something like that. I highly recommend you call ahead and talk to the relevant authority. It's usually somebody's job to do visitor relations. And so you should be able to connect with somebody who's relatively enthusiastic and interested in answering your questions. And at that time, like you probably also want to ask them like, hey, like what do people like to do in the area? When is a good time to go? What are some things that I should be aware of? And then specifically, here are some suggestions for questions to get you well equipped and informed for your trip. So starting below this park ranger representative, we have flooding. So you definitely want to make sure that the park that you visited when you were 15 years old, that you might be recreating as a family outing, is still open and that trails haven't been affected by flooding. So asking about any like trail closures or any like recent weather events. And then moving on over, you see these two people with backpacks on. So this is asking about like hunting season, or, other people in the area for Ocala National Forest. Sometimes I like to make sure that it's not during the Rainbow Festival when there's more crowds, for example. So asking about other people, asking about hunting seasons, and then wildlife. Have there been any is there any wildlife that you should be aware of? Are there any habits that you need to change to recreate safely in that area? So, for example, I've had run-ins with like monkeys in some places, and it's been nice to like know what I should do differently in terms of like packing my food prior to those moments. And then is the area that you're going even open? So I have definitely traveled for a good distance only to find that the place I wanted to go was closed. So always
Or
double check that. And then above that is the ocean. So that's sort of representing tides and local weather patterns, things that you might just like, if you're traveling outside of Florida, you might want to know about, for example, in Utah, typically the canyons can get flooded in the afternoon from heavy rainfall. So asking about local weather patterns, finding out about different tides, especially if you're in coastal areas. And then accessibility. If you're traveling with a group of people, can everyone participate equally in where you want to go? So, are there wheelchair-friendly ramps? Can you bring a stroller? If somebody needs a cane or can't walk for like long distances, is there a good place for them to sit on a bench and rest? Or like a good turnaround spot that will be pretty easy for them to navigate back to the car. So, asking about accessibility. And just knowing as well that accessibility can also include bathroom access. So if you're traveling with a group of people who aren't sold on the idea of using the outdoors as your bathroom, or they may not know best etiquette, make sure that they have a bathroom that they can use and is friendly to them. Or if you're traveling with parents, that there is a way for them to change their kids' diaper. So accessibility, weather, closures, animal life, hunting seasons, recent weather events, but above all, just get in the habit of calling somebody who's knowledgeable about where you're going, and having like a friendly conversation with them, because that can often be pretty inspiring and you can get some like good, like off the beaten path knowledge.
okay, so now we're going to jump into some family-friendly tips about getting into the wild with your wild one. So this is a picture of my daughter, and I'm like, isn't this just such a cute photo? Well, the experience was not so cute when at 2 a.m. she was screaming in the tent, and we're at this crowded campground with people all around us, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. Like, I really wish that we tried this in our backyard first and phased into this experience. And this was a learning moment. Our days were great, but that night was pretty rough. I'm proud of us for trying, but we learned some good things from that. So I'll share some of the lessons and some tips. Okay, so part of it is just, isn't that a cute picture of Brenda and her daughter Ada? I love that. But this is just that the journey is the destination. So leaving early, managing expectations. It's really helpful to bring friends. Luckily, we had friends that were excited to help us out. And then considering the nap schedule. So sometimes it's like, all right, do we want to do an adventure before nap? After nap? Do we want to nap on the go? What does that change about what we might want to bring or do? The timing of that, like how can we find a cool shady spot for the stroller and like be in one place, or maybe we want to be walking while we're napping. Like those are all considerations. And then setting incremental goals. So incremental goals as in camp, maybe try a backyard camp out inspired by Daniel Tiger, and then work up to camping at a campground. maybe that's one incremental goal. Or like one example is my daughter, I was trying to get her to, I had so many bags to carry, and I was trying to get her to just walk into the Morningside Nature Center Festival and not carry her the whole time. And they had little roosters, little like rooster figurines that were set up along the path. And so I'm like, oh, go visit each rooster and give them a pat on the head, just like trying to give little incremental goals to like keep forward momentum and not get in the struggle of like, let's go, come on. So it's like maybe, breaking things down to like hiking to that tree versus hiking a mile, walking until snack time versus gotta finish this thing kind of mentality. So bring lots of snacks, a properly fitted life jacket. If you want to have like the youth life jacket if you're going in the water, definitely bring the water refill. I feel like a change of clothes for me just opens up so much opportunity. I'm like, yeah, get in that puddle, sit down right there, and just like put dirt and sand all over yourself and like be in the rain. And we have a change of clothes. It opens a lot of opportunity, and just being flexible and adaptable to the ever changing needs of littles, and just like that being out there and being together is the goal.
Okay, great. So we're reaching the end of our slide deck, which means it's time for a recap slide. So step one is going to be figure out your why. And going back to the beginning, it may not be for everybody in the group that you want to bring outdoors. They may not be motivated by awe or grandeur or building character, having physical challenge. Instead, you may need to figure out your why by figuring out what you're going to do, like what actually motivates the folks that you want to spend time with, if that is a goal of yours. And so thinking about small activities that might be not immediately what come to mind, but are just like ways to incorporate things you already do, but do them outside, will be a really good way to like build comfort and experience, either with yourself or with like your family or your friends. So start small to finish big is a saying that I like to remember in that. Um, and then next is going to be step two, choosing your when, which is considering your local seasons and the time of day. So is there anything that's going to be like a once in a lifetime thing that you can see at a certain time? You better do your research to figure out what that is, whether that's like a sea turtle migration or, your first uh, blueberry pie that you picked from fruits that you found outdoors. Know your seasons and when you want to do those things. And then choose your where and consider the physical difficulty that you want to incorporate. That could be from like almost none to just to, trying out rock climbing in a safe environment with people who know what they're doing. And then also consider accessibility. So the Lochua Trail highlighted here again, has a really accessible boardwalk. I enjoyed taking my daughter's stroller on it. But not every place is like that. So do your research and then decide your activity and whether or not you're allowed to do that activity in that area. And then figure out, how is the weather and the temperature going to affect that day. And then last but not least is figuring out the how. So your how is going to need to include who you're bringing, how long you'll be out. And then from there, you can start to make your packing list and start to think about the considerations that you might have, local area considerations, and hopefully also contacting land management, or just being aware of the local rules and regulations that you should be respectful of while you're out there. So that's our recap. But if all of that seems like a lot to take on for your first adventure, we do have some UF resources that can help make your journey a little bit more easy. So here's our plug for those services, which is RecSports Outdoor Recreation. So in my role, I oversee guided adventure trips, which are led by student trip leaders. And up here we have a picture of like our epic trip to Iceland, which was done in 2022. And that was like a big trip, but we took off some of the, physical and mental load by providing first aid kits, providing trip leaders who are trained in first aid, providing an itinerary, and doing a lot of those like pieces, which can be a little bit overwhelming. besides Iceland, we also run more like of your backyard type trips. So we do surfing trips to St. Augustine or paddling trips on the Ichetucknee, and we provide the group gear, the transportation, and the leaders, and the price of the registration includes the park entry fee. While we mostly see students on those trips, it's definitely not all students, but we do have member versus non-member rates. So if you don't have an active rec sports membership or you're not a fee-paying student, then the non-member rate is higher than the member rate for adventure trips. And then if you feel pretty comfortable, like with your ability to manage your first aid kit, all of the gear, and you just want to get gear, we also provide outdoor gear rental at the Center for Outdoor Recreation and Education, which is the building you can see here, and that's behind the Southwest Rec Center. And we have a cute little slogan from game day to the backcountry. We've got you covered. So we have stuff that you can use, such as chairs and tables and canopy tents for tailgating. Or we offer, backpacks, a ton of different kinds of like watercraft, everything from like inflatable stand-up paddle boards to canoes to kayaks, to get you on Florida's awesome waterways. And in that case, you can show up or fill out our online reservation system and come to the building. It's again not free, and there is a member versus non-member price. Or you can also like write, either me or Amber an email and just be like, hey, I actually just like want more information. I think I have the gear, I think I have the knowledge, but I just like kind of curious if I could pick your brain a little bit more to get out there. And that is also fine. That's part of what we do as well as education. But if you're looking for a more catered experience, we offer these two options. Plus, Amber also helps to oversee.
Lake Wahlberg. So these are both, we have two different shores. So they're both about like a 15-minute drive across the prairie down south on 441. So Lake Wahlberg North Shore, there's a swimming area, there's boating, we got grilling and picnicking, field games, pavilion. There's also like an indoor event center there, here, I mean, and then there's sailing 101 workshops. So North Shore, we're open Wednesday through Sunday. So on Wednesdays, we're open, Wednesday through Friday, we're open noon until 6. And then on Saturday and Sunday, we're open 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. As faculty and staff, you get free entry, but you will pay $3 per guest, and you can bring kids, you can bring any number of guests, and then it costs $10 to get a boating pass for the day to get a boat, or and you can switch out the boats that you want to use, but to have like one boat at a time throughout the day. So that's like a fun family friendly little. There's like a little swim area with like a little beach vibe, little like lounge chairs. So that's really nice. And then at Lake Wahlberg South Shore, this is for reservations only. And one of the offerings there is the challenge course programs. So we offer workshops where or events, I mean, where it's like night zip and s'mores. So that's like a fun, we've had people come with their kids before to that. And that's a really fun one-time event. And otherwise, you can reserve a challenge course program with a group. So that could be something that is up high on this like 3-story platform, like in this picture, or it could be something that's more team building elements that are outside that are maybe just in a field, like games that we'll kind of play, or it could be where there are elements that are a couple of feet off the ground and you can build skills in communication or team building. So those are fun things for your group there.
Great. Okay. And then the most important step is to do it. And because we do want you to get outside, we also just want to incentivize you to go outside. So if you registered for this and your email is included, we'll send you an email for gear rental for a 10% off coupon. And then as well, if in the list of like places that you saw, you got inspired to go someplace in Gainesville that you haven't been before, we want to know about it. Or if you're adventuring even past Gainesville, we want to know about it. So if you tag our Instagram, which is at UF Rec Outdoors, then we will also give you a little patch when you come to the Center for Outdoor Recreation and Education to pick up your gear rental. And we also just like want to see the adventures that you go on because we want to know what works to get people outside and engaging with their environment. So we are, of course, big boosters for the services that we offer on campus, but we're also big boosters for the Florida Park Service, the National Park Service, National Forest Service. And we want you all to like get out there and we want to know what works to get everybody out there. So we hope that you're inspired to go someplace new and then we want to hear about it. Please tag us at UF Rec Outdoors. Use your coupon and come and visit us either at the Center for Outdoor Recreation and Education behind the Southwest Rec Center or at Lake Wahlberg. And that is the end of our presentation, except for questions from you all, unless you had anything else to add.
Right. I would just like to go ahead and add before we dip into the Q&A. I dropped some links in the chat. So one of them is for a survey. If you guys would fill that out, it should also pop up at the end of this webinar, but you can go ahead and click on it now if you want. But that just helps us improve some of our future work-life planning. It's about 7 questions or so. And then also with the links, we have the Employee Wellness Series, some upcoming webinars if you want to explore more programming we have coming up. And then we also have a link to our Work Life website uh, for get out there resources. And like she said, that covers like state and local parks, gardening resources, like lots of things to help you get outside. So that's just some more resources for you. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, let us know. Uh, Other than that, you guys are free to take back the rest of your lunch. But yeah, they'll be answering some questions in the next few minutes.
I did put a link to the bug spray that I prefer.
Yeah.
It's called
And
Beat It Bugs.
I guess if we don't have any questions, why do you prefer that one, Amber?
Oh, I think we actually do have some resources on our next slide, I believe.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, so we are a resource. And then Alachua Conservation Trust has a lot of different trails, and they have a virtual trails tours YouTube channel. So that's really nice to see. And then All Trails, FloridaHikes.com. Those are great spots to find, and you can look at like the difficulty level, the length. Is it a loop? Is it an out and back? Like, what are some pictures? What does it kind of look like? That's nice. And then Breja mentioned the Florida State Parks. And then, do you want to talk about these last two, Breja?
Yeah, I mean, you all probably are aware of this since you're UF staff, but the county extension or an IFAS have a ton of like really good resources. They also are the ones that put on like fishing days, which is like a family-friendly event for getting kids like acquainted with different fish species. And then the REI expert advice is just you can type that into your search bar, and that will come up with like a ton of like resources that REI puts out, including some like checklists to get you outside as well.
Nice.
And there you go, and that's us.
There we go. That's us.